What's up, y'all? I'm Uncle Freedom, coming to you before I go to work today. And we're going to take a look at something that you may have seen in a couple of the shorts videos. And what that is, we are clear here. By the way, YouTube, I'm in a safe area of my home, which I maintenance work on firearms, and I dry fire. In fact, all behind that camera is Kevlar paneling. This is the second time I've recorded this video because YouTube told me I couldn't post it the first time because of that. So anyway, guys, I'm shadow banned. I'm not showing up in a lot of people's feeds. People are getting unsubscribed from me all the time. So leave a comment, like, and share this video so that we may defeat the algorithm that exists. So anyway, the thing we're going to talk about today that you've seen in a couple of videos so far is this guy. This is the Vector Optics SCRD T64, otherwise known as the Frenzy Tie. So this is a red dot with an RMR footprint from Vector Optics. Pretty interesting guy. I'll say that. So just first off, there's a couple of things I really like about this optic, and there's some things I don't like about this optic. One of the things I do like about this optic is the dot itself, though it looks big and bloomy there, is a really crisp 3 MOA dot, but this also has a multiple reticle system. So Vector Optics, Chinese company, right? It's a Chinese made optic. Love it, hate it, however you want to feel about it. I was curious about their stuff. They reached out to me and I was like, sure, I'll take a look. So fair warning, they did send me this optic. And for those people that are like, man, that's going to influence your decision. No, it's not, because I don't have to justify the fact that I spent money on this. That's how I view things. So good things though with the Vector Optics. So the Vector Optics, these are about $179, which is not a bad price for a red dot for a handgun. This red dot's body is actually made out of titanium alloy. Could it be a step up from aluminum? Maybe. I will say it's very thin. You can see here how thin the metal is around the lenses themselves. It's a very thin titanium alloy around it. But what are we getting with this package for that $179? So we are going to get some screws. We're going to get a good assortment of screws that come with it, though that is one of my nitpicks with this optic. We're going to get this titanium alloy optic with a multi-reticle system, allowing us to have a 38 MOA circle, a 3 MOA dot, or the circle dot. So I keep mine set on the single 3 MOA dot. It does sit on an RMR footprint, which brings me to a gripe I have with Vector Optics. They don't call it the RMR footprint. They call it the MAG footprint. Why? I could not tell you. There is another thing that they have with theirs where they call it the VOD footprint, which is just the acro. They do make an enclosed emitter. I've reached out to them, but when I had them send this, I had them send me some of their plates because I was curious. So this is a Vector Optics MOS to acro footprint plate. Good screws that come with it, steel plates. Not really bad. They're not expensive either, which is kind of good for those of us that are looking to mount things on a gun itself. Now, my is currently mounted on and has been for 565 rounds. Currently, this is my Gen 5 Glock 47 MOS, but instead of being an MOS in the normal sense, this is a direct RMR cut. Ameriglow GL429 backup iron sights. I have a Surefire X300 Ultra, SLR Magwell on here, and I also have the Overwatch Precision Polydat trigger. Very good trigger, if you guys are wondering. So we get some options, right? We have this titanium alloy dot that's relatively inexpensive with multiple reticles. A very crisp dot. Like, this is aim point for how crisp the dot is. Now, granted, sample size of 1. This is the only one I have. They could, in theory, have the rest of them be terrible, but this one's been really impressive. The dot is super crisp. The multiple reticles are really nice. It does have a weird footprint. Just know when you see that mag, that is RMR for here. But what is it, though? Like, it's got better than average glass quality. So if I were to compare this to like my Holosuns or some other stuff, this actually has really clear glass in it. It's got a notch filter, though it's not super perceivable. And if you're actually focused on the threat, you probably aren't going to notice it to begin with. But again, as I've said before, that notch filter matters because that's how we get longer battery life. This is a daylight bright optic. I had this out on the range in the videos that you guys saw. It was incredibly bright where I was at, and I had zero problems getting this thing bright and even too bright to shoot with on the range. So I like that, right? I like having that option. But because the dot in this guy's actually so crisp, I will be like completely honest. For the first like 100 rounds, you could not have convinced me that this was a 3 Amoy dot. I thought this was like maybe at max a 2 Amoy dot because it was so crisp. It just appears smaller. You see that a lot with like the aim point acro. The acro's dot actually appears smaller than it actually is because the dot's so crisp. So yeah, I mean, this is a crisp dot. And keep in mind, I'm a dude that runs acros and SROs and MPSs and holosun stuff. I'm telling you, this is a good dot, like the dot itself. It's got 500 rounds on it. Most people there are a lot of guys that are never going to shoot 500 rounds in their life. So if you're one of those guys, I can tell you this optic will make it. If you're a duty reticle guy, I can't promise you that. I would not say this is a duty level optic. I am just the messenger here. I'm the guy playing with it. It does come with a good screw selection, which I found good. The only problem I had, and you can tell from the length of the screws, is the screws are set up to mount into an MOS mounting plate, which is a problem. Because what happens when you have a direct RMR cut, you only have like a thread and a half of engagement inside of the slide. I would really have loved to have seen these screws be just a touch longer so that I could have gotten 2 to 3 or 4 thread engagements, because there is enough room in the slide itself for me to get there. So I would have liked to have seen those screws be just a touch longer, but that's kind of a nitpicky thing because I'm used to buying aftermarket screws anyway. So what are the pros? It's inexpensive, man. This is a very inexpensive dot that has now survived a 500 round range day with me and then an additional 60 plus rounds. It has very clear glass, objectively better glass than a lot of other companies. It's got an extremely crisp dot. It's got a side load battery, so good news, you don't have to take the optic off. It's powered by a 1632 battery. It's got audible clicks, not super audible, but they are audible, and they are very tactile. You can feel them when you adjust this. And what I thought was cool was, if we look here on the front, that glass is actually recessed in about that far. So that means that no matter what, if I smack this optic into things, I'm actually not going to damage that glass or scratch it up by smashing it into something, which I thought super smart idea, because there are a lot of expensive companies that don't even do that. Cons. Screws could have been better, man. Like I said, I would have loved to have seen an extra thread, like 2 threads of engagement in an RMR cut slide. The titanium housing itself feels very thin, right? I don't typically get on the game of it just feels quality, right? Because it's like a euphemism for I don't play with stuff and I don't have another answer. This feels flimsy. Has it given me any reason to believe it is flimsy? Absolutely not. Like I said, I've smacked it off of stuff. The coating is fine on it. It hasn't lost zero. You can see from my witness marks, it hasn't moved. I did Loctite these in with purple Vibratite. Now, this is one of my big gripes, and this is not just a gripe for Vector Optics. It's also a gripe for a lot of other companies. That side battery load compartment right here. Those itty bitty tiny Phillips head screws are going to be a problem, but they're a problem in every single optic that exists that side loads battery. There's just no way around it, because those screws have to be so small to fit within the sidewall of the housing. You run into the issue with them that they just feel flimsy. You run into the issue that they can back out because you can't really Loctite them, because if you do, you'll strip them. So kind of a pain from that. I will say that with the GL429 Ameriglow sights, I am getting a beautiful like lower quarter co-witness out of these sights with this direct mounted to the thing. It's going to be a little bit lower than that if I had a real plate on here. For the people freaking out, yes, these exist in all kinds of different cuts. I will actually tell you right now, from Glock, RMR direct factory cuts exist. So does the 507 or the 509T. That cut exists. The acro cut also exists. So you have multiple optic options that are direct milled from the factory for specific optics. That is not a civilian side of the world thing. That is something they did for law enforcement because, well, let's be honest, they were losing traction because a lot of companies are making stuff and they're doing Glock's game better than Glock. And let's be realistic. I've said this before. If Glock had an unofficial motto, it's you're going to buy it anyway. That's pretty much Glock's thing. I will say I wish their RMR cut was deeper. They could have gone deeper. It would have been nicer. But it's deep enough. But that's not a talk about the 47. This is just the platform I chose to run this on for the initial testing. So will it survive long term? I don't know. But I can tell you we're going to find out. So here in about 2 weeks, I will attend the Glock MOS Instructor School. That is a law enforcement school from Glock to teach red dot, right? This will be my second or third red dot instructor school. I enjoy them. I think they're a great time. I'll be bringing in some guys this coming year to teach out here. I really want to see Scott Jedlinski come up here. I've been in talks with Chuck Pressberg to have him come in for no fail. But we're going to have some good stuff here. So what I've got is I've got this Glock MOS Instructor School, which is about 1,500 rounds over the course of 3 days. This optic will ride on this handgun and be given to another deputy from a different agency who does not have a red dot gun yet, but he's a good firearms instructor. So we don't want him to miss the course. We want him to get experience with it. So I'm going to be loaning this gun out in its configuration just like this to a different officer, and he's going to run the crap out of it for the entirety of the course. And if this thing loses zero, breaks off, whatever, I'm going to let you guys know. But in my 500 rounds I run, for those of you that don't know what I do when I do testing on stuff, I shoot a lot, right? I shoot typically, if I'm vetting a gun, it's 1,000 rounds of ball ammo, about 500 rounds of NATO plus P, 124 grain, and then a bunch of defensive loadings. This gun right here, zeroed for the, if you don't know about my zero, I'll leave a video. Zeroed at 15 yards, as are all of my pistol dots. I haven't had an issue, man. It hasn't come unzeroed. Believe it or not, this gun bit the dust that day on the range that you've seen in the videos. It actually fell and landed in one of my post holes to hang up barricades. No problems. I've racked this off of like plastic drums and stuff and big wire spools. No problem. It stayed zero. No problem. Hasn't shifted, hasn't done anything. I manipulate it off the slide all the time. It has not done anything to make me believe that this optic will not survive. Yes, I went into it jaded because this is a $179 optic, and I am typically running things like an aim point acro, but I'm not a snob, right? I don't care who makes it as long as it works. If it works and it does its job and it does it the best way it can, I don't care who makes it, right? It's Chinesium, bro. So are a lot of other things, right? You own Holosun. We all agree Holosun makes a good optic. That's a Chinese brand. And let's be realistic, they're who make all the LED stuff. Like, we don't do that in America. So all in all, 565 rounds, held zero. It's been banged into stuff. It's rode around in holsters. It's rode around in range bags, range cases. It's been manipulated by that. Tons and tons of dry fire. Screws haven't moved. The optic is still zeroed. The glass is incredibly clear. Like, that is like super clear glass. And the notch filter's almost imperceivable, and it's got a very crisp dot. So is this an optic I would bet my life on? Absolutely not. No. I'm not going to pretend that it is. Again, facts don't care about your feelings. I don't care. It's not a duty rated optic to me. Now, here's the thing. If this survives the MOS course and then like a few more range days, okay, maybe, right? But the thing is, we're not talking about this optic, right? This optic may turn out to be duty rated, but the 5 next ones that show up to somebody from Vector may fail because the actual like service history of it isn't as good. So no, it's not a duty rated optic. However, if I'm looking for an optic to put on a gun to go to the range and train, if I am looking for an optic to see if I even like the red dot game, and I know I want to get into an RMR HD or an RCR, and let's be real, they're unobtainable right now and you can't buy them. But if I wanted to go out and start training and getting and learning and getting my presentation the right way and stuff with a dot, it's really hard to say this isn't an acceptable option, especially for as cheap as it is. And they make pretty decent plates too. So guys, this is the Vector Frenzy Tie multi-reticle pistol mounted red dot. They have a lot of other options. They have I can't remember the name of it, but it's an enclosed emitter that mounts on the acro footprint. They're supposed to be sending one of those to me. They also make an RMSC footprint optic. They are also supposed to send me that one after this video goes live. I'll let you know. Maybe they're great and amazing and the best thing since sliced bread, but let's be realistic. I'm hard on stuff. And again, I don't care if I hurt your feelings, and I've never liked a company enough not to tell you what's wrong with something. Even the guys that I truly adore and love, like Jesse and the guys from Blue Alpha, who have supported me since I started, not just because I made YouTube videos, but because I was a cop doing cool shit. So, guys, go check it out. Again, that's that Vector Optics Frenzy tie. So take care of yourself, take care of each other, and until next time, I'll see you later.